Okay, we have seen in the last class two scholars of culture personality school, that is Margaret Mead and Ruth Benedict. Quickly revising in 2 minutes. Ruth Benedict, what does she say? She says that culture is an integrated whole, and this integration happen from to traits combined to form complex, complex combined to form pattern, patterns combined to form configurations. So in this combination, the patterns, there are several patterns. Okay, so you have complexes and you have their arrangement, it gives rise to multiple patterns. But these patterns, in these patterns, you will notice one pattern which is dominant. And this, see, these are all designs, but this is the major design along with all other designs are aligned. So you might have seen peacock related uh, designs, right? So all the small peacocks combine to form a bigger one. So this major dominant one which aligns or dominates all other things, which is creating a major design. Okay, so all other small designs become satellites to this major ones. And this genius, she calls it as personality. And see, now these are all patterns. What did they lead to? These patterns led to the formation of configuration. Configuration, if you throw it or project, it shows the culture. So Ruth Benedict, according to her, culture is an integrated whole. Traits combine to form several complexes combine to form patterns, and several patterns combine to form configuration. And among these patterns, you have one thing that is a dominant one, which she calls as genius. So these patterns are arranged along a genius, which gives a special design and which dominates, that she calls as personality or central axis or genius. Okay, and that personality will determine how the culture is. See, culture is nothing but projection of configuration onto a wall. If you project, it will show the culture. That means here in this configuration, what is determining it is this pattern, right? So that means this personality is influencing this entire culture. So it configuration is nothing but a culture, right? So that means personality is influencing culture. Clear? So then she got influenced by Friedrich Nietzsche, who says Apollonian and Dionysian. I told you Apollonian, good God, peace loving, calm, cooperative, whereas Dionysian, who is drinking, luxurious, and who is considered as bad. So she is influenced from there, and she said that you can divide human society into two genius. One is Apollonian and Dionysian. She notices these things in the Zuni and Dobu Melanesia, and at the same time she also notices among the Quakitul. She calls Zuni to be Apollonian and Dobu and Quakitul to be Dionysius. Okay, she accepts that there are small variations. Okay, so there are multiple personalities possible, but there is one dominant personality, right? So she says that the individual differences are there, but the dominant one will ensure that these differences become insignificant in influence. But later on, she saw criticisms from multiple people that it is not negligible, and you notice multiple types of personalities, right? And they are significant. Whose work was that? What? Kaplan's. Barry Kaplan was the one who has conducted in different places this study, and you also notice other people as well. Didn't get you. Love. Freeman only. does the Margaret meet someone re-study, but not the Freeman. Whom else do you notice their work and notice that there are multiple personalities? Okay, while talking about the last scholars, Cora Dubois, then you'll get to know that who has criticized and what has been criticized according to them. So you have understood Ruth Benedict. Then we have seen Margaret Mead, very detailed, very simple, right? And then criticism by Freeman, then Paul Schenkman. So that you are clear. And one more thing, Ruth Benedict has been criticized by Maurice Opler. Maurice Opler says that society is not just divided into two types. You cannot dichotomize. There are multiple ways possible. Okay, multiple personalities possible, multiple variations possible. So you cannot just divide it into two types. Okay. So these are the two things which we have seen. Now coming to Ralph Linton, Gardiner, and Cora Dubois. Ralph Linton, what does he say is that he studied the relationship between culture and personality and wrote the work Cultural Background of Personality. The name of the work, and he gave characteristics of personality. It is unique to everyone. So personality is unique, and you cannot say whether it's good or bad. At the same time, the personality is nothing but it's an integration of all the habits you develop since childhood, you attitudes you develop from childhood, and the traits you develop from the childhood. You combine all this, the ideas, attitudes, habits, okay, these all together leads to a personality of an individual, and it is unique. At the same time, you cannot judge it as good or bad. It's just a combination of all these things. And he takes the functional approach. You can look at here. He divided the needs into two categories. One is psychological, other is physical needs. Psychological needs are needed for emotional security, for long-term purpose, whereas physical needs for the maintenance of the body. And he says that if you look at, in order to fulfill the needs, individuals develop stimuli. Okay, how do they develop that stimuli? You can see that either through imitation, either through innovation, or trial and error. So you can see the response principle works is called as function. How a particular stimuli response principle works, that is called as function. And the way function interacts with the child, he will get a particular trait, and over a period of time, the child acquires all the required traits that are necessary to fulfill the basic needs. So, since the childhood, through the stimuli, the child learns to meet his needs. Try to read it carefully. In order to fulfill the needs of an individual, you have to generate a response called as stimuli. And the way stimuli response principle works is that now I have some need, some stimuli. That means some instinct will come. That will lead to some response. So stimuli response is called as function. How they are working together is called as function. Hunger is the stimuli. Food you get is the response. Stimuli response principle is called as function, and the way function interacts with the child. So how the function is met and how it is interacting is called as stimuli response principle, and child, he will get a particular trait, and over a period of time, So first you know that through this way I should get food, through this way I should defend myself, through this way I should run away from the people when there is threat. So these all stimuli response principles you learn over a period of time and acquire all the required traits that are necessary for fulfilling the basic needs. So over a period of time you learn all the traits that are needed for fulfilling the basic needs. Clear? So this is the functional approach taken by Ralph Linton. Okay. So I told you in the class last time also. So how can you develop this stimuli? I told you, right? One, you will see somebody doing it and you will also do it, or you will do trial and error, or sometimes you will use your intellectual. These are the three ways he talks. And he says there are types of personalities. One is basic personality, other is status personality, and then is social inventor. Basic personality, I told you, you live in a common society. There the socialization process is common to everyone. Because of this common socialization process, everybody will be developing the traits. So constellation of traits, all the traits that you learn as a part of socialization will lead to a personality. Since they are common, that he calls as basic personality. So basic personality is the personality received by common process of socialization. And then you have status personality. If you are belonging to a particular group, then you have particular status. So because of that status, you will be developing a personality. That means you will be having attitudes, ideas. What is personality? It is combination of attitudes, ideas, habits, right? So now here also when you go to particular status, suppose you have become DC of a district. When you become DC of a district, then in that case your ideas, your thought process, your habits, everything will develop. Then you will acquire a personality of that particular position or status, that is known as status personality or group. When you belong to particular group, you will acquire a personality that is known as status personality. Then you have personality of social inventor. These things you don't learn anywhere, but rather when the situation challenges you, you will try to deal with it. Then the kind of personality that you develop is known as social inventor personality. So it is not from your past, but rather because of the challenge that you have faced or the situation that you have faced, right? So he talks about there are different factors influencing personality. First, environment. Okay, so he saw the Eskimos who are in a what do you call it? Arctic environment. Their personality traits were very peaceful. But if you see traits of Red Indians, they are violent. Why? Because he says that it is the environment. Depending upon the environment, people also behave that way. Okay, so that is one of the factor influencing personality. Second, you have heredity. How heredity will influence personality? How heredity influences personality? What Ralph Linton says is that if you look at, there is good looking male and female who gives rise to the birth of good looking child. Whereas the male and female are not good looking, or either of them is not good looking, and because of which child is not considered as good looking according to the standards of the society. Now this person is praised in the society, treated well, whereas this child is not treated well and is not praised, is bullied or criticized. Now what happens? Because of that kind of criticism he faces, he tends to behave in a different way and react in a different way to situations compared to this person. So though heredity is not directly influencing personality, but heredity do influence indirectly. So this is what Ralph Linton talks about. heredity is also influencing personality, because see, now people are not treating him well, he will behave in a different way. That means his personality, where did it come from? It originates from the heredity. Clear? So heredity influences the personality or the physical traits of the person. These physical traits shape the outlook and behavior of the society for an individual. How society will behave towards an individual is dependent upon the physical traits that he acquired from the parents. Right? So then culture. So he says that culture and personality are two sides of the same coin. On the one hand, culture determines the personality, and on the other hand, personality reflects the culture. So culture consists of values, norms, interests, temperament, motivation, etc. It provides the atmosphere for the personality development. Culture will provide the atmosphere for personality development and aggregate of the personality. So when all the people have some personality, these people will again influence the culture, right? They bring up their ideas, their views, and that is what is followed in the society. Now, depending upon the situations and environment that you have, you will develop. Once you have developed, the kind of people that are there, they will again create something which is going to become part of culture. So culture is influencing personality, and personality is again trying to serve the entities of the culture. So both are interacting with each other. So culture influences personality and personality influences culture. This is the school which is followed by Ralph Linton and Abraham Cardinal, Cora Du Bois. So you need to understand how he is trying to say culture influences personality and personality influences culture. And then you have experience of an individual. So that also influences the personality of an individual. So this is with respect to Ralph Linton. Now, what problems can you identify with the Ralph Linton's theory? Just think for a minute what all we have discussed, and you try to explain that what problems can you identify. Also, if you can understand particular experiences can also influence. So in your life continuously you come across something that also will determine your personality, or suddenly you see something, then also it will determine your personality. For example, if I can give you major example, Gautam Buddha, he saw four incidents while he was going, so that itself has determined entire his personality change, right? So his personality changed completely from Siddhartha to Gautam Buddha. So personality is influenced by experiences as well. Culture, experiences, heredity, environment. All these influences personality. And culture and personality both interact with each other. These are his findings. Now come to the criticisms. So just you have to tell the criticism, because you have to find out what flaws you are noticing here, what you think is not right. You cannot just be a passive participant in the class. We have discussed so many criticisms so far. So out of that, you try to tell me what are the critics. Think, don't look at me. Very good. Next. What he said is true. I'll explain what he has said. Okay. And that is also one point. So that's what you people can come up with the answer. Think. But he's telling that uh, not both the children will have same personality. See, one way as a process of socialization, that is one criticism, that everybody is having same personality, but that is not the case. Basic personality is not same, right? That is one thing. Now what you are saying, that is the same criticism, because two children have same socialization process, but their personalities are not same. Coming to biology, that is different. Biology is indirectly influencing. If you are giving birth to a good child, good looking person, the personality is different. Bad looking person, the personality is different. So that is what he is saying. So there it doesn't work as criticism. Yeah, so let's discuss one by one. First, first major criticism. See, first let's have general criticism from the theory. General criticism. Most of the times we can write general criticisms by our own, by understanding. First, he considered culture to be relatively stable and static. Just like you said, historical aspects he did not take. He did not consider the change from the history, because personality, culture do change with time. So then personality should change over time. First thing. And second thing, you are telling that culture is determining the personality. You are not considering the people's innovation, intelligence. People do make decisions. Even culture tells to do this thing, people will deny it. There is an individual decision making ability which can influence, right? It can influence. At the same time, there is overemphasis on the uniformity of culture, assuming that high levels of cultural uniformity within the societies. There is lot of diversity of individual experiences, and within the culture there is so much of subcultural variation. Okay, Abraham Gardiner, who who has talked about the basic personality, along with Linton, also identifies that Gardiner says that you should take into consideration the primary institutions such as school, marriage, family, kinship. These all things should be taken into consideration in order to explain this. And next, see, heavily on psychoanalytical theory has been emphasized here. You cannot verify it. It's very difficult to verify. How can you verify that environment and personality relation? It's very difficult. It's not possible. So, with respect to methodology, he heavily relied upon the ethnographic observation and then his psychoanalytical theory. And he cross-cultural comparison he has done. But about the personality structure, it is very difficult to verify, because methods like projective tests, you show a diagram and see what they are thinking, that is not reliable, and it is culturally neutral. I told you, right? The test are based upon the Western bias. When I was telling you the methodology that is followed, there is some bias involved. So that is not culturally neutral and not reliable. So depending upon these things, if we can conclude, then that would be wrong to do so. So there is methodology error. First, methodology problem is noticed. Next, culture is considered static. No individual agency is considered. At the same time, he considered that culture to be determining the personality. But however, there is individual decision making ability to change things that is ignored. So now coming to specific criticisms. So Cora Du Bois, you will be noticing the people of Olor, the work. So there, Cora Du Bois is a student of Linton. So she developed the model personality structure in her ethnographic study of this Olor people. Olor people are belonging to Indonesia. The people of Indonesia, there is one community that is known as Olor. So she argued that Linton's basic personality structure theory was too rigid. It is assuming that uniform personality type is formed. Okay, I told you in the class that Du Bois is student of Linton and Cardinal. Being a student, she saw the flaws within their teachers and she tried to correct it. So the flaw is that these people assume that uniformity of personality type. She doesn't consider that entire culture is having uniform personality. So that's why she says there is modal personality. Modal means mean, median, mode. Mode is something which is repeating frequently, most frequently repeated. So she says that there is some personality known as modal personality. And Anthony F.C. Wallace, in his Culture and Personality, critiqued that personality structure approach for its deterministic view. So now they're saying culture is determining personality, personality is determining culture. You are trying to give it a deterministic view without giving the individual agency importance. You are not giving importance to an individual agency. Rather, you are saying everything culture itself is making you do. You are not taking any decisions. Your personal involvement is absent. So he argued that Linton's model did not adequately account for the cultural change and diversity of individual experiences within society. So he did not take into consideration the diversity of individual experiences. Your experience and my experience is not the same. So how can you say that we can have common personality? Common basic personality, how can we have? And at the same time, cultural change is not considered. You can see cultural change do happen in some groups. You notice the cultural change. He has ignored that. So whatever we have said previously, we are giving a scholarly view to it. First, uniformity, considering culture to be static and it is giving rise to only one type of personality. That criticism was given by Cora Du Bois, his student herself. And next, you have T.H. Peer. In his review, he acknowledged Linton's attempt to integrate anthropology, sociology, psychology, but he criticized that Linton has been overtly ambitious and lacking depth in the discipline because Linton's study did not capture complexities of personality. He combined multiple things to study properly. He made an attempt, that's fine. But what he lacked is the depth of the work where he ignored the complexities of personalities. And even I told you, Abraham Cardinal also criticizes that you ignored the primary institutions which should be taken into consideration, such as child rearing practices in shaping personality. He did not uh, sufficiently consider these foundational aspects. Can you tell me what are the criticisms? So what is the criticism? Relied heavily on psychoanalytical means what is the problem by relying? You are telling he relied more on psychoanalytical theory. So what is the problem if he relies on psychoanalytical theory? You need to be very specific. Don't club all the things at one place. You are telling there is heavy reliance on ethnographic observation and psychoanalytical theory. So when you do this, you are following what? How are you doing this? Your what methods you are following? Projective tests, interviews, these things you are following, and these are not reliable. That is the problem. And next, other criticism is like overemphasis on cultural uniformity. That is what has been criticized by Cora Dubois. Says that there is not just one type of personality, you can notice multiple types. And she gave model personality. Then other criticism, yeah. So next is like Anthony of Valles critiques that there is change in culture and experience of an individual is different, and individuals do make decisions, but what you are saying that culture determines personality, so that means that you're not giving an importance to individual agency in the culture, and individual experiences are different, right? In the nature there is a research article, what they highlights is that people form cultures, no sorry, people form personality, and that personality is result of complexity of the culture, and it is very difficult to capture, and his study did not properly understand personality across different cultures. That is one criticism. Then Abraham Gardiner, you did not take into consideration the role of primary institutions such as child rearing practices. Okay, so in shaping the personality, initially both gave basic personality, but later on they diverged in their views, and he says that you should take these institutions in explaining. Okay, that is Ralph Linton theory of culture and personality. This we have seen. Simple Abraham Gardiner. It is not she, he. So sometimes we intentionally maintain the errors. So I thought students should identify. At least they should know whether a scholar is a male or female. I'll tell you, one of my friend, when the question was asked about Cora Du Bois, he wrote completely using male terminology. He doesn't even know or aware that Cora Du Bois is a female. So it's important to have an image of people in your mind so that you know that whether they are male or female. It's important. It looks like it's a minor error, but it spoils the entire theory, saying that you are not even aware about the scholar. That means you might have read from somewhere and you got the information. You are not interested in anthropology. So here in the book Individual and His Society, he defined the basic personality. What is basic personality? Constellation of traits which are shared by all the members of society as a result of early experience which they have in common. So during childhood you have experience in common. Because of that common experience, you will be developing a personality. Okay, so that you develop as a common experience is called as basic personality. So all the traits that you gain, if you combine together, that constellation of traits which are in common that you acquire due to common experience in the rearing practices during your childhood, that is called as basic personality. See, culture influences personality, personality influences culture, and this is continuous. So, according to him, in society you will notice two types of institutions. One is basic institution or primary institutions, which he was criticizing Linton when he diverged from his view. Initially, both of them together talked about basic personality. Later, they diverged. When they diverged, he says that you should give importance to these things. He did not give. Linton did not. So, what are these primary institutions? They are important for disciplining, restricting, and gratifying the child. So, you have economy, environment, family, social organization, sexual control, basic discipline, polity. So, then you have secondary institutions. These are those institutions which minimize the tensions generated by the primary institution. So, you have magic, myth, folklore, religion, concepts about deities, magic, etc. So you have primary institutions which gratify, satisfy, discipline, and restrict from doing wrong things. So these needs are served by those institutions, these functions, and again, when the primary institutions are functioning, they will generate certain tensions. Those tensions are minimized by the secondary institutions. Okay, so now I'll read out a story or the work that has been conducted by Abraham Gardiner among the Marcusan Society. Then you'll understand it properly. So now when you have primary institutions do generate certain tensions. So these secondary institutions will serve the needs and tensions generated by the primary ones. The Gardiner, as an anthropologist, says that to study the role of primary and secondary institutions in the formation of basic personality structure, anthropologists, what they should do, they should study the role of primary and secondary institutions in the formation of basic personality structure and giving in expression to the basic personality structure. And in the basic personality, you have multiple multiple things involved, components involved, and those components are ideal constellations, ego, superego, attitude towards the supernatural beings. See, what is ideal constitutional? Ideal constellations. These are all the things that you think, right? These are the techniques of thinking, of security system, of your future, or it can include disciplining in the early age, equality or inequality, teaching about equality or inequality, cooperative and competitiveness. So this is the thinking part of an individual. Next you have E. What is E? It is nothing but a part of personality rooted in the biological needs. So here it is selfish in nature and uncompromising. So based on your pleasure you lack, you don't have any control on it. So E is something, see first is thinking ideal constellations. So here it involves the thinking part which talks about the security of an individual, and when it comes to E, it is nothing but personality rooted in the biological needs. Therefore, it has least control or least civilized. You behave based on the pleasure principle. Then you have ego. So to be civilized, when you have to be civilized, what you need, you have to put your desires in an order, or you have to channel them into socially harmless way or useful actions. In order to accomplish this, the child must incorporate the standards of the culture. So, in order to behave in a harmless way, you have to incorporate the standards of the culture. So, that's what the ego teaches. So, to be civilized, humans must learn to put off the desires and channelize them into socially harmless actions. This work is done by ego. Ego is the integrated personality that results when each feelings are properly channelized. Here you have desires, but you can behave whatever way, uncivilized. But when you civilize it, it becomes ego. Then you have super ego. This is the value system that gets integrated into the conscience. That is the inner feeling which guides what is right or what is wrong. So it is not an intuition but an intellect we have gathered around during the process of socialization. So what is superego? The value system which will tell what is right, what is wrong. In the channelizing, you will channelize. But while channelizing, what will tell you what is right, what is wrong, how to channelize? That is the superego. So he said the components of basic personality include these four aspects. I'll tell you the story. So Marcusans, they live in an island of Polynesia. These people live in islands of Central Pacific Polynesia. Here, what you notice is that the proportion or ratio of men to women, men is 2.5, women is 1. So, now what kind of marriage system you'll notice here? There are more men than women. Poly, polyandry, right? One woman having multiple husbands. So, women occupy predominant position in the Marcusans society. In the society, woman is occupying predominant position. And if you notice, the environment is hostile. Environment is not so good. The mountains, rocky mountains, rugged mountains are there. And if you see coast, the coastline is very short and the sea is very deep. And fishing becomes very difficult and dangerous. The climate is warm and there is hostility between the inter tribes, other tribes and these tribes, there is hostility. Cannibalism is noticed. The economy is horticulture in nature, and they also do hunting and rearing of pigs and other animals. They grow banana, coconut, sugarcane, mulberry. Father plants coconut tree and other trees in the name of child. In the name of child, father plants a tree, and at the same time, there is division of labor on the basis of age, gender, and specialization. Men do 80% of the work, like food production, house building, and utensil making and cooking. Women will perform only 15%, such as weaving of mats, baskets, fans, and clothes. So the material here shows that the people are artistic and they master the craftsmanship and make canoes, boats, utensils, houses. There are specific rules in governing and owning the inheritance of property. The property is owned by the primogenitor. Primogeniture means the elder one, right? The first child, be it woman or man, it doesn't matter. The first child is going to own or inherit the property. Okay, so at the age of 10, boys has to get their hand sanctified in order to acquire eligibility to cook food. The food has got important value in their culture, so that's why in order to cook food, they have to get the hand sanctified. You know that male cook food here. I told you. So cooking and eating is done in a separate houses. Okay, dwelling quarters is separate. Food cooking is done separate. So society is organized into three classes. You have priests. Okay, there is one priestly class, and the other is master craftsmanship warriors, and then commoners. Okay, so the society is divided into three classes. One is nobles, right? Other is the master craftsmanship and the warriors. Sorry. Yeah. So in the society, you have three classes. One is priestly class, that is nobles, and next master craftsmen, and then you have commoners. So the chief organizes ceremony and communal activities. The inspirational priests provide send off to ancestors, warriors, and protectors of the society. And you have craftsmen who are artistic workers and commoners. And here the society follows bilineal descent, the descent which is from both mother side and father side. See, lineage means what you are getting from your ancestors, from which side, from parent side or sorry, from mother side or father side, any side, that we call as lineage. If you are getting from both sides, then that is called as bilineal or double descent. Double in the double descent, you'll notice one thing, that you are getting from both sides, but not the same thing. One side you will get property, in other side you will get something else. Some other rights you will get from them. So this is double descent. So this is the kind of society you are noticing. And the number of husbands determine the status of women. The firstborn male child of the family always marries the firstborn female child of another family. Firstborn male child of the family will marry the firstborn female child of another family. The management of family's head is in the hands of senior husband. However, effective power is in the hands of woman. Senior husband will manage management, but effective power is with the woman only. She calls husbands at will and dismisses if they displease her. Because she has multiple husbands, she will call at her will. And if he displeases her, then she will dismiss. The state of pregnancy brings additional prestige to a woman. Husband acts as midwives. Husband only act as midwives. The child is rarely breastfed. Woman wants to preserve her beauty and figure, which is the status symbol. She doesn't care about the child. A woman is mainly considered as a sexual object. Immediately after delivery, she does not attend the needs of the child, rather, she visits local version of beauty parlor to adjust her figure. Under these conditions, child is frustrated and secondary husbands take care of children. Socialization also has its own distinctions. Practically, there is no disciplining of the children. Children aged about 8 to 10 are left to themselves. They only will get into gangs, and the members of the gangs play, eat, and sleep anywhere. The leadership of the gang is based upon the ability. Often, a strong, active, beautiful girl will take the lead. Adolescents, when they become adolescents, forms into separate groups. Each group is called kabor. They try to they try to learn the arts and crafts informal. They try to learn arts and crafts informally, and sex is quite common. Girls take pride in the number of boys they can satisfy in the evening. Girls often tease the boys by saying that they'll marry, later ditching them. And as a consequence, love suicides are very common among boys. All Marcusans are sexually potent. Everybody is sexually potent there. However, male homosexuality rarely occurs. There is no homosexuality. And when it comes to political life, men behave politely towards all other men. So that's why when you see that when they marry same woman after a point of time, multiple husbands are there. There you don't see any quarrel between them. So jealousy among women is very common. Old people are neglected, but they never killed. They don't care about old people, but they didn't kill them. Okay. Then Marcusan religion is highly organized with elaborate rituals and beliefs. The Marcusan deities include creation gods, gods of human origin, such as craftsmen, priests, chiefs, and warriors. So they believe that gods have created these people, and these creator origins. Gods are worshipped here. People always appeal to gods for the welfare of human beings. They always address their divinities, and at the same time, the supernatural beings in the form of Nihinihai. So here you will be seeing the what do you call the spelling of it, or the temptress, and then other is Fahua. So these are all the male spirits that act as spirit suitors. So what you are noticing here is supernatural beings are in the form of tempters. That means they are trying to tempt. So that act. So men are scared of beautiful women. According to the term Nihinihai, according to that, the woman may even steal children and eat them up. Not cannibalism. Man eating man is cannibalism. But here she is a spirit, supernatural being. Okay, so the Fanua caused fall pregnancies. Fanua is a spirit. Nihinia is also spirit, and they believe that these spirits are dangerous and they can kill and eat the children. At the same time, Fanua caused false pregnancies and terminate real pregnancies and impose even deaths. They have folklores. Folklores means stories and legends. Okay, which these folklores and stories reveals attitude towards maternal neglect. Some stories depict women as evil mothers. This reveals the maternal neglect that is seen in the society. So there are some stories which depict children killing the mother. They speak for food, anxiety, and neglect. So from there, this analysis is done, and from there you can understand. First, you have primary institution that maternal neglect is noticed. Jealousy of brothers and husbands is suppressed. You won't have any jealousy. Okay, so they stay together only. And then non-cordial relation of sexes. That means male and female are not cordial. Food scarcity and food anxiety is noticed. Absence of sexual restrictions during the adolescence, and then no resistance and obedience. Now primary institution is leading to basic personality, and now this basic personality is again shaping the secondary secondary institutions. So culture influences personality, personality influences culture, again it continues. So you can take one or two examples of this, but I explained you entire story. So you can see here non-cordial relationships, right? Fear of exploitation by women and intra-feminine hostility and status competition. So when no cordial relations, they have this personality. They always think that the woman will exploit, and that feeling is always there. And because of that, your stories, myths, what are they're considering the spirits that Vahimini is very high and it tries to eat even sometimes it eats the children. So they have been portrayed the spirits, women spirits as dangerous. And you can see here hostile representation of women as Vahimini. That means because woman is represented danger as a danger thing over there in their stories. Okay, so primary institution is forming personality and personality is leading to the changes in the secondary institution or that is determining the secondary institution. So culture influences personality and personality influences culture is what Abraham Cardinal has talked about. Thus conclusion may be drawn that primary institutions make the elements of basic personality and the basic personality make up secondary institutions. Then you have Cora Du Bois. So the characteristics shared by most members of a given culture compromises the sorry not compromises comprises the model personality. Right? What does model personality comprises? Model personality comprises the most commonly shared traits. Okay, so Cora Du Bois conducted the field work. I told you already in the study of Allure while criticizing Linton, right? So in Indonesia between 1937 and 39, and then she collected three types of data. One is child training, other is biographies. She collected biographies, each with dream material, and then she has conducted projective tests. Out of that, you have road, road search tests, word associations, and drawing tests. Road search test means showing something and trying to identify what they're saying, right? So that she took 128 projective tests and biographies, then data pertaining to child rearing practices, and she concluded that all she found that all three concluded with similar type of basic personality. It's not the right thing. Okay. Something is missing in the slide, so just leave it there. So what she has done, now she has gathered all these three types of data, right? She has gathered three types of data, and what she has done, this she has given to three specialists. One is Abraham Cardinal, other is Trude Smith, and other person is Emil Oberhosler. One is Abraham Cardinal, okay, other is Trude Smith, then Abraham, sorry, not Abraham, Emil Oberhosler, not Osler, because there is one Malayalam movie with Osler. So, so while reading it, I generally confuse and use the word Osler, Oberholzer. So again, one more thing, not male. She, it is female. Okay. Again, True Smith is also a female. Sorry, I just need to confirm it. True Smith is not female. Right. No, like, all of them are male only. Because when I have searched yesterday, like immediately I've got some people. So the problem is that male and female having the names similar names. Sometimes we too get confused. So these are the three people: Abraham Cardinal, then Trude Smith, and Emil Oberholzer. So these three people were given this data. Generally, these things are not needed, but just because while reading, uh, you'll remember for a long time. So now what she has done, she provided the information of child rearing practices and biographies to Abraham Cardinal. Drawing tests, drawing tests are given to Trude Smith. Child rearing practices and drawings, sorry, child rearing practices were given to Abraham Cardinal, drawing tests were given to Trude Smith, and Rorschach tests were given to Emil Oberholzer. Word association test and see, you have these three things, right? Data pertaining to child rearing practices. This is given to Abraham Cardinal. And dream material is also given to Abraham Cardinal only. And this drawing test is given to the second person, Trude Smith. And the third, the word associations and Rorschach tests were given to Emil Oberholzer. Okay, so after analyzing the data, see, they were not told about giving the data to each other person. See, there are three people, they don't know, they were given data. So they don't know each other about these things. But when they analyzed and returned the results, they obtained the results that they obtained from these tests were same, and that made Cora Du Bois to come to a conclusion that there is a personality known as modal personality, which is common. Okay, so she also studied the Alores of Indonesia and she tried to talk about it. So you can go through this when you are free. So nothing to explain here. She tries to say that due to strict gender division of labor force, child is neglected. After 14th day, mother will go to work and father is always outside. Child is left. So that's why they have hunger and food purge in them. And several women may take care of the infant, but there is no development of an image that child can depend upon. So he doesn't know that whom to depend upon. So many people will come and take care, several women, but there is no image that in the child's mind that okay, somebody is taking care of it. So infants show tension by rejecting or spitting out the food. So generally they don't eat. So the child himself begins to walk and is no longer cared about, losing the security of comfort. Moreover, feeding continues to be more irregular as child grows. As the child is getting elder, so they won't even take care about feeding. And next, the medication of the child is done with irritating medication when he feels ill. And this frustration is further compounded by Custom of teasing. Mothers do tease, mothers show preference towards other child, just like Indian society, than that of her own child. Okay. As a result of the world, as a result, the world appears threatening to him, and the feeling of jealousy becomes common to him. Next, so child becomes shy and reserved and doesn't expect a favorable response from others. They frequently run away from their homes and live with remote relatives. They often steal and forge. So this is the childhood personality the child develops. Then adolescent personality, if you can see. So the marriage is very unstable. The Oloris, men or women, are almost divorced twice. Very unstable marriage. They are divorced minimum twice, and then during the lifetime, at least they have divorced. Oh, sorry, divorced twice, and because none of the childhood patterns build around the solidarity in the family. See, what it is trying to say is that during childhood you did not see any solidarity between the male and female. Since childhood, you did not see that, and now because of that, what is happening? Now you are seeing increased rate of divorces because there is no solidarity feeling only within the family. Since childhood, they see that family as a hostile thing, which is something threatening. They doesn't give any some comfort. Okay, they are left with little sense of security and self confidence. Moreover, women are the economic provider and male is the dependent on the female. So here the religion, ancestor worship happens, but ancestors are neither exalted nor revered. So, because there is no interest in any possibility of getting benefits. When you don't have benefits, why will you refer? Oh, sorry, why will you revere someone? At the same time, ancestors are fed. Okay, so they are fed despite not revering them because if you don't feed them, they'll become angry. Thus, Aluris make sacrificial food offerings. And at the same time, the religious art is careless. So, what conclusion you can come up with this understanding? We can say that culture is reflecting the basic personality by directing the child rearing practices, and the child rearing practices make up the adult personality. First, you have culture where you are neglecting, you are not taking care of the child, everything. Now, that is reflected in the basic personality, and that basic personality lead to the adult personality. So, culture influences personality, and personality influences culture. So, this thing you can read it, childhood and adolescence. Culture reflects the basic personality by directing child rearing practices. So you can see the culture, the basic personality of the child. You can see in the culture they are neglecting. Mother doesn't care, father doesn't care. Woman will come. There is fighting between women. So it's always threatening. No security, no self confidence. And by seeing that, you can see the basic personality. Now, the child rearing practices make up the adult personality of the individual. So culture is influencing basic personality, and now basic personality is influencing the adult personality. So criticism to Cora Dubois. Before that, Cora Dubois concluded that basic personality in all is anxious, suspicious, mistrustful, lacking in confidence, with no interest in the outer world. So there is no capacity to idealize the parental image or deity. So they don't have any parental image or deity. So this personality is devoid of the enterprise and is filled with hatred and free floating aggression over which constant vigilance must be exercised. So they don't have high aspirations, they have no basis for internalization of discipline. So the individual so constituted must spread most of their energy protecting themselves. So they are trying to protect themselves. Cooperation is low, very low, and there is no mutual trust. This is what she has observed. So what criticism or the limitations you can notice in Cora Dubois study? First of all, you tell what is the strength here. Good. First thing, she used something objective. So because her teachers lacked it, so being a student, she tried to fill that gap by conducting the studies through projective tests and interviews, life histories, methodological innovations for the time in ethnography. While doing the ethnography, she used this methodology and she has given individual variation attention, right? So she did not say everybody is having the common uniform personality. That is. And next is configurational approach, which try to give the model personality structure, okay, which is novel way to link psychological patterns. Previously, it was saying either common, but here it can say the model, just like Ruth Benedict saying that there are multiple patterns, but there is one dominating pattern because of which the entire culture is influenced. Right? What flaws did you notice here? Think of it, you'll be able to come up with that. First criticism is that they're applying the Freud concept, psychological, how psychology influences things. But okay, so you have integrated psychoanalysis, that's good. But what people have questioned is that application of Freudian concepts across different cultures is questioned. They believe that this is having the Eurocentric bias. You cannot use the Freudian concept in understanding the alloris. The other study by Sebiog, here in the academic review, So people will review the papers, right? You write something, somebody will write a review on it. So discussing the contributions, they did not mention detailed specific criticisms, but overall what they said is that there is some problem with methodological observations or approaches and interpretation of cultural data. So there is no cross verification of it. So these are the major flaws that they have observed. So overall, she tried to address the flaws of Abraham Gardiner and Rolf Linton, but however, still people didn't find the methodology to be so clear. So these are the criticisms to Coro Du Bois. So quickly revising the three theories. If we can revise quickly three theories, Ralph Linton, what does he say? There is personality, he defines personality, and then he says that basic personality. What is personality according to Ralph Linton? What is personality according to him? It is an integrated body of habits, attitude, traits, and ideas of an individual, which varies from person to person. It is unique and cannot be evaluated as good and bad. Next, he gave the functional approach. There are needs, two type of needs, psychological and physical. And psychological is long-term security. Immediate meeting of the body needs is physical. Okay, in this process, body gives a stimuli and you have to generate a response. How do you learn the response? You learn it by three ways: imitation, trial and error, or through intellect. So these are the three ways you try to meet it. And there are types of personalities: basic, status, and inventor. Status means because of a group, basic means because of common socialization process. Then personality of a social inventor means something it is not because of the past, but rather because of your situation you invent something. Then what are the factors influencing? Environment, heredity, culture, and peculiar experiences, right? Then coming to Gardiner, Abraham Gardiner, what did he talk about? Abraham Gardiner says that because of common experience that you gain because of socialization during the childhood, you develop a personality known as basic personality. So basic personality is constellation of traits which are shared by all the members of the society as a result of their early experience which they have in common, because in their early rearing practices they have things in common that gives rise to certain traits, and the combination of those traits he calls as basic personality. So basic personality is nothing but constellation of traits shared by all the members of the society because of their common early experience in their life. Next, two types of institutions: primary and secondary. He says that primary institutions influences the basic personality, and basic personality in turn shapes the secondary institutions, right? So components of personality: ideal constellations, ego, superego. Id means your desires, just which works on pleasure principle. ego which channelizes it. Super ego is a value system which will help in channelizing, right? So by using the study of Marcusans, so I'll send you the story. I'll give you an audio note so you can refer to, so that whenever you feel that you're not connecting to the theory, you can use this audio notes to connect better, because you cannot write those things in your answers. That doesn't make sense also, because you have to write about the theory rather than telling the story. So what he says, basically there are primary institutions which influence basic personality, then which influence the secondary institutions. This is what you have to convey. Then Cora Du Bois tries to address the gaps from there. Okay. Okay, I'm repeating. So Cora Du Bois has done the fieldwork to address the drawbacks of Linton and Gardiner. So she does the fieldwork and she uses the empirical methods. So she collects the data, she collects the biographies based on the dream material, then projective tests, which involves Rorschach test. That means they show something image and they try to understand how the people are thinking. Then word associations and drawing tests. So these drawing tests were given to Trude Smith and this were given to Emile Oberholzer. Three people don't know each other that they were given these things, but still they gave the same conclusions, because of which she came out with something known as model personality, which says that the commonly shared personality is known as model personality. And she studies the Aluris people. She notices the childhood personality. So the culture is being reflected in the basic personality, which in turn is influencing the adult personality. Right? So culture influences personality and personality influences the culture. So that has been observed here. And we have seen the flaws also. This is overall criticisms, and this is with respect to culture personality school. Right? There is one more topic from this, that is national character studies, but that we'll be doing at an advanced stage. Now we shall limit to the basic things because it becomes too much to digest. So let's in- internalize what we have read. Let's sink in these things, and then we'll go to additional things, because we have additional things in all the aspects. It won't be much. If I have to say, the additional things of entire paper 1 and paper 2 will be some 20-30 pages. But their understanding needs lot of depth. Are you clear with culture personality school? Can you explain, Bhaskar? Explain what Ralph Linton was trying to say. Be be precise and try to maintain an order, because or else When you are not following a pattern, you will not remember. See, first in his work, he tried to talk about how both culture and personality are interacting, right? Then he gave the concept of personality, in that he said that personality is unique. You cannot say it's good or bad. He said, what is personality? What does it consist of? Habits, attitudes, ideas, right? Traits. Yeah. So then, what does he say? He says there are types of personalities: basic, status, and social inventor. Common socialization. Yeah. Social inventory is something because of, not because of your the past experiences, but because the situation that arises. So you invent something that is very different from what is already existing. Then factors influencing personality. What are they? Environment, heredity, culture, and peculiar experiences. Yeah, peculiar or particular. That means it can be continuous experiences or it can be sudden experience. So sudden experience, I already gave you the example of Buddha, right? So you can better understand how personality can be influenced. And next, so can you explain uh, Ralph Linton, sorry, Abraham Cardiner's culture personality? Hmm. So basically, he tries to understand that there is basic personality. It is nothing but a constellation of traits which is shared commonly because of common early experience they have. And he says that there are two kinds of institutions in society: primary and secondary. And primary institutions, because they have rearing practices which will influence the basic personality, and this basic personality in turn gets reflected in the adult personality. Okay, so secondary institution, so basic personality will sorry, primary institution influence basic personality, basic personality in turn influences the secondary institutions. Not, it influences the secondary institution, because you see that magic, myth, and folklore stories are showing that woman is dangerous and bad, shown in a negative light because of the basic personality that they have gained. And basic personality, where did it come from? The primary institution. So this is from the study of Marcusans of Polynesia. And then you have Cora Du Bois. Cora Du Bois, the study of people of Polynesia. She did all the work. She went there, she gave to different people. They concluded that there is some common personality. So there are many personalities, but there is something which is repetitive that she calls as model person. She didn't say much more than that. She said that there is culture, which is influencing personality, which in turn is influencing. So child rearing practices, initially there is culture which led to basic personality. Again, these basic personalities being reflected in the adult personality. So both and culture, the divorces that you notice at the later point of time because of their personality that has been developed. So it is giving rise to, again it is influencing the culture. Basic childhood personality, not basic personality. So early experiences give rise to childhood. Childhood gives influences the adult personality, and which in turns influences the culture again. She doesn't talk about basic personality. She addresses the problems that were there in basic personality. You're clear, right? So then we have symbolic anthropology. What is symbol? So what is difference between sign and symbol? Sign is something which do have meaning, but it doesn't vary culturally. It is universally shared. Plus symbol now you have everywhere similar. My addition, subtraction, division. This everywhere similar in nature. Symbol is something specific to a culture. It is shared, commonly shared among them, where outsider cannot relate. You have swastik symbol. For us, it is sacred. For Europeans, they might relate it to Nazism. And at the same time, for somebody who is an outsider, they might just think it is a combination of multiple perpendicular lines. So, symbol is something which has got meaning and is shared with the people, culturally shared. Symbol is something which has got meaning and culturally shared. Symbol need not be tangible. Symbol need not be visible. It can be an idea, thought, expression, anything. Symbol can be anything. It need not be just what you can see. It can be that you cannot see as well. It can be something that you cannot see. It can be invisible thing as well. So here they want to understand the society and culture through the symbols. How did this school come up? One is reaction to structuralism. So structuralists, what they were doing, they were using universalistic approach, right? So everywhere people think in same manner, similar mind. They're focusing more on the structures in understanding. So Clifford Geertz is also influenced by Bose, Franz Boas, not Bose, Franz Boas. So Boasian or Bosians, he is one of the Bosian. So who follows Franz Boas? He believes in cultural relativism. So he says that universe, instead of focusing on structures, focus on the symbols which are peculiar to that particular culture, particular to that culture. So that is one reaction. And next, other reaction was to universalizing. He want to keep it culturally relativistic. So in this manner, you notice the rise of symbolic anthropology. And symbolic anthropology, within that you have three approaches. One is interpretative approach, other is symbolic approach, other is categorical approach of Sweden. Taxonomical approach, categorical approach and taxonomical approach. There are three people. So first two unit you should know, Clifford Geertz is influenced by Max Weber. Max Weber gives social action theory. I told you that there were two theories, social fact theory and social action theory. Social action theory is given by Max Weber. Social action theory says that the behavior of an individual is result of the individual thought process and individual decision making. Social fact theory, which is given by Emile Durkheim, says that the behavior is because of the external social facts that are influencing the person to act. Getting my point? There is social fact theory, there is social action theory. Social fact theory by Emile Durkheim, social action theory by Max Weber. Social fact theory says that there are facts, social facts, they are nothing but rules, norms, which will make individual behave in a particular way. But whereas social action theory says that though there are facts, but individual will think and he will decide and he will behave in a particular way despite any rules. The person will make his own decision. Here he is influenced in social fact. So these are the two differences. Max Weber influences Clifford Geertz and Emile Durkheim influences Victor Turner. So Max Weber has influenced Clifford Geertz. Clifford Geertz, he uses the approach known as hermeneutics. Hermeneutics means, in hermeneutics, it's like suppose there is a god who has written something which is not understood by the common people. So you should read it and you should decipher it. So he also says that culture is nothing but a web of symbols. It is completely set of symbols, collection of symbols, and these symbols have got meanings, and these are known to those people of those cultures only. Outsiders cannot understand. So it's like a text. Culture is like a text. The text has to be read by the anthropologist and it has to be deciphered and told to the outsiders. So you have to read what is the meaning of the symbol and tell it to the outsiders by interpreting it. So what is interpretation? Interpretation is nothing but anthropologists will look at the people and he tries to understand what people are thinking. So that means he is looking at the emic approach. That means he is trying to understand what people are feeling, not as an outsider. He is trying to just interpret what they are feeling. But he says that this interpretation might vary from people. If you do the fieldwork, your interpretation of what they are saying might vary. See, I am not saying what I am feeling, but I am trying to tell what they are feeling only. But my understanding may be different from what you might understand what they are feeling. So they are following emic approach. And he says that culture is like a text. Now, this is transmitted from generation to generation. So he sees symbols, how the culture is transmitted to the next generation, it is through the symbols. He sees symbols as vehicles of culture. Vehicles of culture means these symbols will carry the meanings and these are transmitted to the next generation, which will help in culture moving down the line. So he considers symbols as vehicles of culture. Whereas Victor Turner considers or is more interested in symbols as operators in the process, symbols as operators in social process. Because he is influenced by Emile Durkheim, he is trying to understand how solidarity is and stability is maintained, but by studying the symbols. He is influenced by structural functionalists. Structural functionalist, Emile Durkheim is a functionalist, structural functionalist. Emile Durkheim, what he says, parts they are together and disturbance is one will cause the disturbance in the other. So, what is the role of anthropologists to understand how the society is maintaining stability? Having influence from there, he belonged to that period only. He was influenced by them, but he is trying to understand through the symbols how that stability and solidarity is maintained, how the transformation is happening. So, he is interested more in how symbols are acting as operators in social process. And Clifford Geertz talks about thick description. Thick description is nothing but is like explaining things in a greater detail. Thin description means superficial expression, explanation. And he does the field work in the Bali. He talks about the cockfight, just like the cockfight we notice in Andhra. So there also there is cockfight. He sees the cockfight. That is seen not as a direct fight between the cocks, but a fight between the people's status, prestige, killing of it. So the meaning that they attached. So he says that the anthropologist should approach the study with thick description. That means you have to tell things in detail. Okay, he talks or he compares it with like an onion. So something what people feel is different, but you have something inside, deep inside. So you have to describe everything detail by detail by peeling off all the layers. That is thick description. Okay, so then you have the contributions of Victor Turner. Victor Turner talks about various ritual processes. He studies Dembu of Zambia, Dembu tribes of Zambia. Now it's called Zimbabwe. So Zambians were studied, and there he observes a festival known as Kanga, Nga apostrophe A. Okay, so Kanga festival. So in this is a puberty festival where there is a tree known as milk tree, where all the people come there. They do some celebrations. They take the woman to a hut. They sing the songs. So he observes all these processes and he tries to say how the process is done and what he has understood from it. And at the same time, he also studies the sorcerer of that area and he tries to talk about the social drama that takes place. So he gives the concept of social drama also. So these are the findings of Victor Turner, and through the studies they try to explain. So in Balinese cockfight, Clifford Geertz tried to show the thick description, and in these studies he tries to show the transformation processes, how symbol act as operators in the process. These things they try to explain and they have certain limitations. This is symbolic anthropology. Then you have taxonomical approach by Snyder, which is very small. So tomorrow we'll discuss this and we'll finish the symbolic anthropology, and if possible I'll complete cognitive anthropology also. So symbolic anthropology, what is symbol, what is sign, then symbolic or symbol. Say symbolic, symbolism, I'll give you the difference tomorrow, you'll understand. And then who are the people, who are they influenced by, what is their interest, what are they focusing upon, what is their limitations, criticism, that's very simple. Okay, so tomorrow we'll finish that. With that we'll finish symbolic anthropology. Then we are left with what do you call, then we are left with the cognitive and postmodernism. Here national character studies, that I want it to be done in detail, because teaching it in superficial may not help you in the final exam, because UPSC is asking little typical questions in those areas where it needs detailed analysis. So now it's not good to go that detailed when we are at this phase of the preparation. So we'll do it at advanced stage, but now whatever has been done, try to do it properly, revise it multiple times, try to write the answers. So take the questions for tomorrow. Difference between Cora Du Bois and Linton oblique Cardinal's approach to personality. Cora Du Bois and Linton oblique Cardinal's approach to personality studies. Next question, explain the theory of culture personality score. Okay, write these two questions.